Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. Got a fun one lined up for you today. Gordy Chiesa is going to be here in studio. Eric Weddle is going to join us at about 1 o'clock. We'll be talking about all the latest and greatest developments in the world of sports on a show that is brought to you today and every single day by our friends over at Big Willie's, Utah's #1 sports bar, Utah's #1 pool hall, a great place for you to have your corporate event, your family party, and a place where right now, if you go in and you say that you heard about Big Willie's and their delicious craft food menu and their incredible drink specials on the Sean O'Connell Show, they will put your name in a raffle to win 2 eighth-row tickets to a Utah Mammoth game coming up on February 4th. I was told by Patrick, the owner, proprietor, operator of Big Willie's, my friend, he said, the entrants this time around have been a little bit lighter than last time, so a higher likelihood that you are going to actually win those tickets if you go and you put your name in at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. A perfect place for you to go watch any NBA games that you want to check out, a wonderful place for you to check out the NHL if you are looking for a spot to kind of make your Winter Olympics home because you know that they'll have everything on all the TVs. Big Willie's is you covered there as well. Another UFC event this weekend. Their first introduction, the UFC's introduction to the Paramount Plus era, was massively successful from a viewership standpoint. They were averaging like 4 million plus viewers, concurrent viewers on the stream on Paramount Plus, which is, I mean, that's a way better number than most of their pay-per-view events. So when they changed the model last year, when they said, hey, we're going to go with a big streaming partner instead of relying on our pay-per-view model, where they had worked up to charging like $75 per event, a lot of people were like, ooh, are they leaving revenue on the table? Well, they got a $1.1 billion per year deal from Paramount, and they're cashing in on it, and I think it's going to be a successful partnership, which part of me doesn't love to see, obviously, because in the PFL we're trying to take a little bit of that market share, but it's good for the sport. It's good for mixed martial arts, for combat sports in general, to have those kind of results. Jazz in action at home last night against the Golden State Warriors, and they lost 140-124. I continue my icky feeling towards the insane point totals that Jazz opponents are putting up this year. 140, 156, 147, 139. Those used to be overtime scores only in professional basketball. And now teams are putting up 130 plus with relative regularity. I don't like to see it. Say what you want about college basketball, because the product there is not always ideal. But at least they're still learning that you got to pick people up at full court, at least at half court to play defense. The Utah Jazz, coincidentally, this year, I'm looking at the full schedule right now, and I'm still scrolling down to find a game in which the Utah Jazz held their opponent to fewer than 100 points. Porter Larson is producing, by the way, in the stead of James Peterson. Oh, there we go. Nope, that's the Jazz scoring fewer than 100 points. Wow. Porter is filling in for James, who he's got a sick kid, and any of you parents out there know it is absolutely the worst. So the temporarily clean-cut Porter Larson behind the glass for me. Hey, Porter.
Temporarily, key word there.
Yeah.
But good to be in with you.
Yeah, man. I always appreciate your work on the drive with Spence Checketts. I'm glad to be able to benefit from it. Your sports mind and takes are always interesting. I know Spence likes to keep you down. He likes to suppress because he doesn't want you to become the star of the drive.
I just don't like to interrupt.
Yeah. Well, that's polite. You were raised right. Is that something I didn't even plan on bringing this up today, but is that something that should bother me as an NBA basketball fan, that there is not one single game this year that the Utah Jazz have held their opponents to fewer than 100 points?
Absolutely should. It's not only as a basketball fan, obviously as a Jazz fan, you're not necessarily jockeying for playoff position. You're not necessarily trying to win a bunch of games this year, and I get it. But that doesn't mean you have to be like historically bad on the defensive side of the basketball, right? And then when you zoom out and we're talking just NBA, man, the watching experience has turned more into like, is this All-Star weekend with a bunch of guys who are not All-Stars? It's a lot of pickup ball. It's a lot of one-on-one. And listen, I'm not necessarily like asking for the late 80s, early 90s when it's just Bill Laimbeer punching people. I think there's a middle ground here where, we can play some defense. We can get a little physical. We can play hard and also, have some pretty basketball. And I don't think the NBA has found that. And I think it's moving further and further away. It's not been a fun watching experience for me this year because it's just not serious basketball.
If you're curious, by the way, as a fan, who the best defensive team is in the NBA right now, that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. In terms of points allowed, OKC is allowing the fewest points in the NBA right now at 107.5, 107.6. Right. Now, if you go back 10 years, 107.6 here in 2025, 2026. Let's go back to the 2015-2016 regular season, which, by the way, the Utah Jazz were the second-best defensive team in the league back then, if you can remember. The Jazz were giving up 96 points a game that year, just under, 95.9. The San Antonio Spurs, the number one defensive team in the league in 2015-2016, were giving up 92.9, 93 right. points per game. So we're now talking about, I'm not a math whiz, but 108 effectively versus 93. We're talking about a 15-point swing in the defensive efforts of the best defensive team in the NBA. Don't tell me it's not a game problem, a league problem, a whole system-wide problem.
And listen, there's some context here. The game is changing. The game has changed. A lot more three-pointers. The pace of play has, of course, changed. But it also comes down to officiating. I mentioned the pace. There's just so much context to it. And, yeah, man, I don't necessarily love watching basketball games that end with 140 points on the scoreboard. I know sometimes it's fun to watch the highlight dunks and the alley-oops and all of the above. But, man, I hope the NBA finds a little bit of a middle ground somewhere. And officiating, I think, does have a big part to do with this. You watch certain players that are just really, really good at playing that game, kind of grifting off the foul calls, right? You hear a lot about James Harden. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is really good at it. Frankly, our guy AJ DeBonsa in Provo is really good at playing that game, right? I would like to see a little less given to that style of play, and it doesn't mean that, say, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not going to be phenomenal anymore. He's got all the skills to be phenomenal without having to get his way to the free throw line every other possession.
That's one thing that you have to remember, especially about elite athletes and great players, right? There's always these kind of dismissive comments and conversations about like, oh, well, in today's NBA, so-and-so wouldn't have been a great NBA player. And my response to that is almost always, yes, he would. Because that person would adapt as the great athlete, right, the incredible coordination, whatever. They would adapt to the game of their time, right? I've had this conversation many times when people get into the crossover athlete thing, and they're just like, oh, my gosh, like no NBA guy could play in the NFL. And every time I'm like, that's not true either, because if LeBron James had decided that football was his thing, and you and I have talked about this before, when he was a sophomore in high school, every college football coach in the world wanted him.
He was right? Like Mr. Football Ohio. Not an easy state to do that in.
They play decent football in Ohio. If he had decided that that was his focus, then everything about him adjusts to that, right? His body's already there.
Right.
But, his love of contact, his physicality, his mentality, all that gets geared toward football, or if it were soccer, or if it were baseball, or if it whatever. Somebody like that, you could put them in any world, and they're going to do just fine. And I think that you do have to contextualize these point totals we're talking about in the game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, like even a skinny dude like a Chet Holmgren Slim Reaper build, if you make him adapt to Bill Lambier's NBA, it's probably not going to be overly natural for him, but he's going to find a way. These guys will survive. They are elite athletes, and we have now given permission because of, the game is changing. The three-point shot matters more. The officiating is done this way, and the crowds want this. We've now allowed for this to be the case, for the best defensive team in the league to be giving up 108 points a game. That used to be like middle of the league or worse. Not long ago. I'm talking about 10 years ago. Those numbers translate. It's wild.
The amount we've seen the game change, and we'll get Gordy in the next segment, and I want to ask his opinion here because I don't know exactly when it started. For me as a young kid, it was like the 7 seconds or less Suns, right? Don Nelson started some stuff with Golden State even before Steph Curry was there. Monte Ellis and some of their guard-centric lineups were just running up and down the floor, shooting a bunch of shots. The Mavericks did it a little bit early with Don Nelson, as did the Nuggets. In fact, the Nuggets kind of tried it in the 80s and 90s and were scoring like 120, 130 points a game.
Are we finding that Don Nelson is just the root of our problems? Is that what we're getting to here?
I mean, he definitely like had a part to play in the game changing around the three-point shot and around like quick offense, right? When you get a bunch of shots up, you get your efficiency up, and good luck stopping us, right? He definitely had his hand in that. That's not the part of the game that I have much of an issue with. It's the very light foul calling when you're talking hand checking, you're talking trying to stop a guy from getting around you at the top of the key. There's just so much that has changed in the game to make it visibly prettier that I think has made it, less gritty, but also for some people less enjoyable to watch. And I think maybe more basketball purists rather than young fans who just watch the highlights on YouTube, which seems like the demographic that the NBA is really worried about right now.
They're catering very heavily to that sustainable audience that they can milk money out of for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, that's why the business of the NBA and the business of the NFL are undefeated in American sport right now, because they have that foresight to know what their young audience wants, knowing full well that as much as the old audience, the aging audience, will yell at and shake their fist at the clouds, we're not turning it off.
No.
We're not canceling our tickets. The NFL and the NBA very specifically have survived some really serious ups and downs, scandals, and things like that. And there's an element of being bulletproof in their business models. We'll talk a lot more about this basketball stuff when Gordy joins us for a full hour, starting in about 15 minutes. I put a couple poll questions up, as I am wont to do, and I would love to have your response on it. At Real OC Sports, you can also text us at 877-353-0700. You can call us if you want to hear Porter's dulcet tones in a personal phone call. I want to know how important the update, the modernity, the amenities, even like the structural integrity of your building, arena, your stadium, the place where you're going to watch live sports. How important is that to you? We saw yesterday Charlie Monfort Field get rolled out by the University of Utah, and it is a small venue. It is intimate. The backdrop, thank goodness we've got this still. Congratulations to everyone involved in that project, making sure that you have the mighty Wasatch Mountains, the Batter's Eye and beyond. We're losing that with Bees Ballpark, with Smith's Ballpark, whatever you want to call it. That was previously the best minor league view in the United States of America, and now we're getting sort of a replacement of that with this new field, new university facility right there at the south reach of campus, in what is, I hope, going to be a nice little injection of support, money, interest in Utah baseball. but it is a glittering facility. It is beautiful, right? And for some people, that truly does energize their interest and it reignites commitment, and I'm going to buy season tickets now because it's that place instead of Bees Ballpark, which doesn't make a ton of sense because that was also a great facility. But in any case, we're also getting the stories of the reimagination of a Huntsman Center that so many of us have great memories in, but every single one of us would acknowledge is a little bit overdue for an upgrade, right? And there was conversation, I guess it was around this time last year, that they were just going to tear it down and relocate it. They were going to move it somewhere else. There was conversation about whether or not it was going to go in the dang parking lot of Rice-Eccles Stadium, whether they were going to move it further south on kind of be off campus almost. If there was anywhere else on the geographic footprint of the University of Utah that you could put that, would it be better to put it in more of a downtown setting? There were all these conversations were happening about the basketball, gymnastics, whatever arena, and people have strong opinions about it. Nobody, I think, is going to be a dissenter on whether or not you need something new. My question for all of you is, how important is that stadium for your experience? Because the television viewing experience now is impeccable. It is fantastic. Right. Every one of us can spend, a few $100 on a TV that is better than any TV you grew up watching. It's bigger, it's flatter, it's brighter, the picture is clearer, and if you spend the extra money, you can watch however many games at a time, 6-8 games at a time, depending on what your subscription is. I mean, there is just endless possibility for you as a sports viewer now at home. So I feel like the builders of arenas and stadiums know this, and they're like, what do we need to do? How do we keep up with the demand of the people? Well, for me, the live sporting experience is just the live sporting experience. If you put me in a folding chair or you make me stand up or whatever, I'm probably still going to enjoy it. Is it better when you have the box seats and the luxury couch and they got a couple like stadium swim down in Vegas, whatever? Sure. Do I like those things? Yes, of course. But how important is it to you? On the Twitter poll, I put 4 options. Massively important. I should have put like deal breaker, but that's what I'm talking about with massively important. Is the condition of the stadium enough to either get you there, or I'm not going because I don't want to be in that building? They don't have the luxury box, so I'm not viewing it in person. I don't want to be there because the bathroom lines are too long or the concessions halls are too cramped or whatever. There's that. There's the very important where, look, I'll go watch at Rice-Eccles Stadium because it's cool. I'm not going to watch at the Huntsman Center because it's too old. There's that's somewhat in the middle. Is it somewhat important where it probably is kind of a neutral experience? Or are you like me? It's not important at all. Like, I'm buying the ticket, and I'm probably spending the same on the ticket, whether it's a great stadium with, heated toilet seats or I'm going in a trough urinal. I just want to be there for the live sporting experience. And we've got a broad mix right now. Massively important, very important, somewhat important, or not important. How do you rate the amenities of your arena or stadium in regards of its importance to you wanting to be there in person? Porter, do you have – I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I don't want to project onto you.
Well, some more context here. We're, as media guys, we're a little spoiled in this regard.
Truly.
We get the press box, we get the credentials, we get fed all the above. But from like a fan standpoint, I am kind of a nostalgia guy when it comes to a lot of the arenas, the stadiums. I would rather like go to an old historic stadium than Allegiant Stadium, right? Like,
sure.
For example, I went to the last game at the Cowboys' old stadium, at Texas Stadium. Haven't been to the big new one.
Fair enough.
That's just kind of my MO here.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I also don't necessarily want to like sit in one concession line for a drink for 30 minutes. I don't want to, use a bathroom where, as you mentioned, is that a urinal, or is that
what
is that a horse trough? Is that
a sink?
Why is there ice in there?
Is that a weird low drinking fountain? What's happening here?
Right.
Yes.
Like updates are always going to be necessary. I think especially in today's age when you are trying to get people out of their homes to go watch a game, you're going to have to play that game. But I am a little bit of a nostalgia guy, right? Like you mentioned the Huntsman Center. I'm very much pro renovation rather than restart, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially a building with history, right? That's one of those. So I'm going to go, like, if our poll is being there, I'm going to probably be in the somewhat important range, which it looks like the majority of the listeners are. But that also comes from a standpoint of spoiled media guys and my lean towards a little bit more of a nostalgia thing when I'm talking about venues. I think that's always bigger to me. It's more exciting for me to go to a place that is, was built in the 40s and has stood the test of time, even if it's kind of this old crummy stadium.
Sure.
Than going to the latest project by the local construction company, right? It's cool. I'm glad they have the updates. I'm glad they have better facilities, like at the U right now. The new end zone, awesome.
It's beautiful.
And if you remember what it was like before, the locker rooms, the press conference room, that needed to happen.
The home locker room at the old south end of Rice Echo Stadium, the home locker room was an absolute disgusting embarrassment. The home locker room.
Yeah.
And the new end zone club and it's wonderful. It's on par with a lot of the pro locker rooms and stadiums that were built in the same time period. And it's going to be leveled up again probably in 10 years instead of in 30 years because you have to keep up with the Joneses and you have to fight that fight. And I will say this, there are very few things that could make me feel bad for professional sports teams or professional sports owners or even collegiate decision makers. I don't have a lot of sympathy for those people because most of them are uber wealthy or collecting inflated salaries or whatever. This is a place where you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because if you don't keep up, if you don't upgrade, you've got a certain segment of your fan base that is just like, I'm not coming anymore. Look what you've done. You've let this fall into disrepair.
Right.
Everyone else is outpacing us. You've got a certain segment of your fan base that does that. And then when you do pay for the upgrade, you've got the other segment of your fan base that is just like, I'm not paying more for my tickets. And this is, it's sterile now. It's like what happened to the character of our old place. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't in some cases. And it's very rare that the architect and the designer and everyone and the construction company, they thread that needle where you kind of, it reminds me of the old Huntsman Center, or it reminds me of the old whatever Wrigley Field, but this is better. I like this. This is nice. It's updated. It's upgraded. I have a bit of a blind spot where, I mean, I've been to, so Nissan Stadium where the Tennessee Titans play is like 27 years old. They're tearing it down and they're doing a new one. And I went to a game because our guy Eric Weddle was playing on the road there. I went to a game there. It would have been 2007, 2008, no, 2017. And I was like, all right, cool stadium. Like 3 years later, everyone started talking about what a dump it is, how dilapidated it is, how terrible it is. And I was like, what are people talking about? And now they're replacing it. Less than a decade later, I'm just going, I guess I have my radar for what needs to be improved or fixed when it comes to arenas and stadiums is off.
I think mine is too. I think I'm with you on that. I will say, I like that you bring up like the designer, the architect, all this working together, because that's part of it for me.
Sure.
You can update it. You can make it cool, but don't just make it like a box with white walls and it just seems like a lot of the newer stuff outside of the big grand, the Allegiance, some of the big crazy domes. SoFi's insane.
SoFi's ridiculous. Levi Stadium, where my beloved Niners play, is kind of like,
right.
It's a little sterile. My dream job, if I had ever cared or gone to school for something like this, they now have stadium curators, the person who's like kind of responsible for, all right, on this concourse, what are we going to have? Is our Hall of Honor going to be here? Are we going to do an art mural? Are we going to do some memorabilia museum, whatever? And the good ones really nail it. And then the bad ones, you're just like, okay, so this is just a generic, large, taxpayer-funded building that now a professional sports team plays in, and they can swap out the colors, and I have no feeling for this place.
I guess since you mentioned it, that's another aspect of this. When you are asking your community to foot the bill for something, have their history, their character involved in it in some form, right? Because I like you said, the majority of these stadiums, these arenas, these public-private entity things are taxpayer funded in some way. So I think that there could be more involvement there, getting some character, getting some history there. That is definitely part of my reasoning for not necessarily caring for brand new shiny stadiums all the time as well.
So Utah, the University of Utah, hit a home run, pun intended, with Montfort Field. It is beautiful.
It looks great.
It is great. It is the right size. It is beautiful. It's wonderful. I love the Dumpke as well. I think they've done a really great job modernizing that campus in a way that improves it. There's a lot of modernizations that happen in sports that are not improvements. They are just modernizations. And it's like, this is a neutral outcome at best. It costs a lot of money.
Yep.
Or it made it worse. It put it further away from campus or whatever. Like, I'm optimistic that whatever happens with the Huntsman Center, if you're putting the same kind of people in charge that did that baseball field that they opened up yesterday, I think we can trust this process. I think we can make assumptions about the fact that it's going to be good for the university. I don't know if you're the type of fan out there that's like, I will definitely start going to Red Rocks meets and I'll definitely start going to men's and women's basketball games if that stadium experience improves. I'm not that type of fan. I don't judge you if you are, because it's a great experience watching at home all the time. You got your own fridge right there. You got your own bathroom right there. You can control the volume. You get insights and replays in the game that are sometimes more interesting, better, whatever. I like this text from 1624. This is probably where I net out, Derek, on the text line. I personally do not care about the venue where these events are being played. I go to watch the team play, not to inspect the modernity of a building. I watched Jazz games in the Delta Center as a kid in the mid-2000s, had fun. Went to a Mammoth game back in November, had a blast. As long as the building doesn't cave in on me while I'm inside it and I can afford it, I'll go watch the games. Yes. That's kind of how I feel. And again, I've been at, like, I made my pilgrimage as a young man raised Catholic. I made my pilgrimage to Notre Dame Stadium, and people were just like, oh, yeah, not what it used to be. Notre Dame Stadium is not great. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is the Holy Land. This is a cathedral of college football.
There's history behind that.
And I'm looking at it like, oh, I love this place. What do you mean? And they're just like, oh, dude, look, I mean, there's a certain part of the concourse at Notre Dame Stadium that the sun has never shined on. So if you're there in like November or December, it is frigid and horrifically cold in that, like, while you're waiting to get your soda or your hot dog or whatever. I'm like, that is not something I would ever notice. I'm there with people who have been to 1,000 Notre Dame games, and they're like, this is why we don't like it. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You know how many pictures I've seen of this place? You know how many movies this place has appeared in? And now I get to be here. So your perspective matters a lot on this. Please lend me yours at 877-353-0700 or at Real OC Sports. 4359 with another. The Rose Bowl is historic, great sightlines and character. It is also a miserable place to see a game with absurdly inconvenient parking, concessions, and restrooms. Give me SoFi. See, I totally value that opinion. I am as far on the opposite end of that spectrum as one can imagine.
The only time that I think the Rose Bowl can be like really bad is when it's wet. I don't know if you've been, because you park on a golf course.
When the golf course is just soggy.
And it does turn into a mess.
It's a mire.
But for me, like, to come down that little canyon and see that stadium with palm trees all around it and the mountains in the background and the ocean off to the other side, like it is a phenomenal venue. The way that stadium is built, like out and up, and it just is a full complete bowl. I love the experience at the Rose Bowl. You mentioned the Notre Dame thing. Like, that's how I feel when I walk into the Huntsman Center, right? Because there's so much behind that. There's so many Final Four runs, the Bird and Magic. Like, you grew up seeing that. I know there's a lot of people on the Hill that weren't here for any of that. There's a lot of execs and whatnot that are newer to the market. I hope that they have that in mind, because I do think that whether you relocate it, whether you build it back up from what it is, it's got to have that character.
Just keep a piece of that. And easier said than done, but that's the Twitter poll, one of the Twitter polls today. We'll get into another one about recruiting philosophy, as it is once again the season for a lot of young men in the college football world, or I guess in the high school football world, to be posting their graphics, their edits on Instagram of their final 10s, their final 5s, their final 3s, their God's plans. We'll get to that later. Right now, we're going to take a quick one here, and Gordy Chiesa is going to be here in studio with us talking a little NBA. Maybe he can explain for us why defense is optional in today's NBA. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
By getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is available here in Utah.
Sean, speaking about the Pope, about the Catholics and stuff in Notre Dame, you realize that the Seattle Sonics, the Seattle Seahawks, every time a new Pope with the last 50 years, 30 years, that became a Pope, the following months, a new Pope, the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl.
Is that true? If you're driving along, walking along, sitting at your desk, and you're not moving your head a little bit, humming along at least, wishing you knew every single word, but kind of, doing the, you got to at least be doing that. That music signifies one of my favorite times of the week. Gordy Chiesa here in studio with us. We've got him for the next hour or so. Gordy, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Sean. And with Redbone, for the young listeners out there, it was originally 1974, so these guys were around for a long time. But for younger people, like Porter Lawson type people, that was done in the Galaxy movie back in 2014, the Guardian of the Galaxy, and that's what the song was, and that's when everybody heard about it. And I say you're right. However, oldsters like me, that was back in '74 when it first came out.
That movie brought kind of the
Guardians of the Galaxy movie back in 2014.
It brought the music of your earlier days back into the pop culture lexicon for the young folks.
It absolutely did. And so we're grateful that people know about it. And, Redbone.
Gordy, we were talking about, I don't even know how we got on this topic, but you're the right person to discuss it with. Looking at the top defensive team. Oh, it's because the Utah Jazz, again, with giving up 140 points to an opponent, and just goodness gracious. And I looked it up, went through the entire schedule this year. They have not held one opponent to fewer than 100 points so far on the season. Not one time. 0 games have the Jazz held someone under 100 points defensively in 2025, 2026. And I was like, all right, but how good are the best defensive teams right now in the NBA? I'm sure you're already aware of this, but Oklahoma City is number 1 team in the league, and they're still giving up 108 points a game. 10 years ago, the leading defensive team in the league was the San Antonio Spurs, and they were giving up 93 points a game. So we know that the game has changed pretty rapidly and pretty drastically over these years, and that is one of the most obvious places in which the game has changed. And I think that officiating and the league office and everyone's kind of like okay with it. They like the more scoring. They like the all-star game caliber defense that we're seeing in a lot of these contests. And we've talked about this some, Gordy, but how hard is it to adjust to as a coach? Because a lot of coaches in today's NBA were certainly around 10 years ago in some capacity or another. Plenty of them were either head coaches or lead assistant coaches in the league back then. And 15-point swing is not something small to manage, I imagine.
No, not at all. And here's some reasons why it happened, was that the NBA took away the hand check rule, and there's more, just generally speaking, physicality, so that you can't really put your body totally on a cut it to the basket. Next part about it is rest management is a factor where teams historically, Sean, don't practice dramatically as much as 10 years ago. So that thing called rest management, where some players sit out actually games, and now teams, as far as actually practicing hard and well, are not there. So which means that the teaching drills and the drills that form the winning habits aren't as prevalent and as consistent. So thus, when you play in a game, the players really aren't technically wise, and as far as technique wise. So the technical meaning what? The group dynamics and also the individual technique. Because, Sean, in basketball, just like in the NFL, your hands and your feet are your career. Technique is everything. When you're a D-back in the NFL or safety, how do you use your hands to their advantage? In basketball, you're trying to steal the ball. You're trying to level off the dribbler. How do I move my feet? And how do I use my hands? And also when you're playing the low block, how do I use my chest? We call that numbers on numbers, where you legally use your chest, your upper body torso strength to contest position and to challenge the shot. So that's how it's not one thing. It's all changed. TV's involved in this equation, as always, because TV pays absolutely billions of dollars to broadcast NBA games, and they don't want games in the 90s where it's a slugfest. However, Sean, in the playoffs, it's a direct opposite, where the game is like including the Super Bowl. The game is defense wins championships, offense wins games. Now those things get blurred in the lexicon. They get blurred. I get it, but you've got to play defense. So generally speaking, whoever's NBA champions this year has a defensive mindset. Yes, they have scoring people, absolutely. They could have the MVP. I get it. If you're Thunder, if you're the, say, Detroit Pistons with Kate Cunningham, etc., Denver Nuggets, fill the blanks in. But all those teams play defense. It's very rare you're only one side of the ball offensive-minded.
And by the way, the numbers will reflect that. If you go look up, and it's easy to do it, you can go look up the regular season stats, the defensive leaders in the regular season, and then that for that same year, you'll pull up the postseason stats, and the numbers tell you, oh, look, they started caring about playing defense here. That's interesting.
And as Sean, add to that, three-point shooting. So usually speaking now, there's always one outlier. So you're driving right now I-15. Don't be screaming in the car yelling, Gordy, what are you talking about? This guy scored this. I get it. I understand it. But three-point shooting, as far as in the playoffs, the defense schematically is so in tune that they're not going to let you shoot rainbow threes in the corner. They're going to challenge that corner shot by one, technically, by not leaving that knockdown shooter, or three, giving only stunt help, which we call you stunt at the dribbler on the ball side, and you go back to the corner and run that knockdown shooter off three-point line. In jazz basketball yesterday, pitcher Joe Ingles, that guy had a great shot in that corner, that rainbow arc three, left-handed southpaw. It always went in playoff games. They never left Joe in the corner. So it became a Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert pick-and-roll game, and eventually that they couldn't finish in some of those games. Also, yesterday, meaning recently, Bojan Bogdanovic, again, another knockdown shooter. They never left him. So it's showing schematically, you're able to dig in and take away a team's non-strength. And then you've got to be able to counter that offensively by, one, moving the players around. The worst you do ever, Sean, when I coached Ray Allen, probably the world's second greatest ever perimeter shooter behind Steph Curry. And number three could be underrated Mark Price. Could be.
Oh, Mark Price.
Absolutely. Mark Price. Hey, Mark, we love you, dog. All right, because he never got any. He's such a great shooter. He retired after a knee surgery. He had a brilliant career. I get it. So is Klay Thompson. So in playoffs, so what you want to do with Ray Allen type people, Steph Curry type people, you don't want to stick them in a corner. You've got to move them around with we call it false action, where there's something going on one side of the floor, and then there's some sort of screening action opposite to free up the shooter. And that's why Steph Curry, including last night's game, the Golden State Warriors, I call them, Sean, backscreen junkies. Well, I didn't say Backstreet Boys. I said Backstreet Junkies, in case you're wondering.
Okay, all right.
That's when you set back screens as the world's greatest shooter to free yourself up, because it's easier to guard you if you're stationary. A body in motion stays in motion, Sean. A body in rest stays to rest. You know, said that, Sean.
Newton?
That's exactly right, Sean. I knew, Sean, that your sixth-grade teacher taught you well. I could tell. I'm not sure about Porter Larson's sixth-grade teacher, or my teacher was a nun back in sixth grade 1,000 years ago, where they forced you to learn that premise.
You get that answer wrong. Rap on the knuckles with the ruler.
You're being kind. Worse than that. Who knows? Thank God it was only capital punishment.
All right, let's talk about last night's game, Gordy. I know you were there with your setup, with your notes in front of you, and watching this Jazz team try to take on a Warriors squad that may or may not be, we'll get to this, may or may not be in the market for the services of one Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. We'll get there. But 140-124, the final score. Steph Curry with 27 points. He hit only 4 of his 10 3-point. I say only facetiously. Ace Bailey was tied with Keontae George for a Jazz starter lead. They both had 19 points. Bryce Sensabaugh outscored any of the starters. He came off the bench for 22, but ultimately a losing effort for the Jazz.
Yes. And with that said, that the Jazz allowed 23 made threes. At halftime, it was 15. And it sounds really, in a weird way, Steph Curry only played average. I know he scored 27 points, but it wasn't really dynamic. That shows you how great he is, where 27 wasn't dynamic. However, everyone else was. The Warriors had 8 guys in double figures. 8. And so it was magnificent how they all played. Now, guess for a second, let's give kudos to Ace Bailey. Ace is really coming along. Last night's game, Sean's alluding to 19 points. He gets 7 boards. Let's not forget, Sean, he turns 20 on August 6th of this year, 2026. So he's doing it as a 19-year-old guy. This year, for the month of January, so January 2026, which ends tomorrow, 30 days in January, if I remember right. All right, Ace is averaging this month 13.9 points per game, 49.2 from the field, 4.1 rebounds, and 27.9 minutes. So he's absolutely trending up. And as the 5th pick of the draft, the Jazz, that pick was absolutely wonderful, because picture him in a playoff game, Sean, 5 years from now, with that guy with his talent and now with more experience each passing year. He's going to be a 20-point scorer because, one, his talent, and he can shoot, and also he's learning how to play the NBA game, and it seems to me he's very receptive to coaching. So that was last night's game. That was part of what I took away from it. Moses Moody from the Golden State Warriors, he's vastly underrated, and the way he plays. Brandon Podziemski is vastly underrated. DeAnthony Melton, vastly underrated. Santos, the Brazilian guys, underrated. Will Richard, who was the teammate of Walter Clayton, with the Florida Gators, national champions last year, is also very vastly underrated. So they have a bunch of guys that are, I'll call them 2 guards, small forwards, and stretch 4s that really complement everybody. Jonathan Kuminga, Sean, did they trade him? He's a part of a trade. He wants out badly. We're going to know. So next Thursday, for the listeners, that's the trading deadline. And it all start probably on Monday morning, Sean, where everybody's more serious. Right now, it's just all conjecture.
All right. We got to take a break here, but I want to talk about that specific case. Kuminga, he wants out, but he wants out of one of the most respected team cultures and organizations in the NBA, and I want to know how the rest of the NBA looks at that. So we'll get there with Gordy Chiesa in 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792 on FM. Farmers Insurance Open from San Diego, California. Matt Greiserman is 4 under. Eric Cole is 3 under. Mac Meissner is 2 under through round 1. Our leaderboard updates are brought to you by our friends at Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Check out the Uinta Golf locations all up and down the Wasatch Front for the best deals on golf apparel, clubs, if you need new grips, if you're just looking for a sleeve of balls, whatever it is, Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Gordy Chiesa here in studio with us, and before the break, we were talking about Jazz just played the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors victorious in that one, and they're looking at potentially a little roster reconstruction as the trade deadline approaches. Jonathan Kuminga did not play against the Utah Jazz. I don't think he's going to play before he is traded somewhere by the Golden State Warriors. He is asked out. They've had a hard time with him for the last couple of years, and it seems like that relationship is heading towards its termination. And Gordy, that brought up for me the question I was asking before we went to break, and I want to give you a chance to answer it now. Jonathan Kuminga has not found a harmonious relationship in San Francisco. And I know this is normal in the NBA. I know that fit matters and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious as to how the rest of the league perceives it when you're like, I want out of the Golden State Warriors, which is an organization that for the last decade now plus has been kind of the gold standard for team chemistry, for culture, for we can bring anybody here and they're going to fit in and we're going to work it around. I mean, they've coexisted with Draymond Green, and even Jimmy Butler has fit in well there after being a malcontent other places. So if you're asking out of Golden State and that franchise, how does the NBA treat it?
With hesitation. However, that most of the teams would be very guarded of taking him on because of his contract's really relatively tame. It's up this year. But it just takes 1 or 2 or 3 teams that really are more, I call it, rogue and radical, that they think they can rehab somebody. As far as with our team, he'll play much better, and he's a better fit for us, etc. Fill the blanks in how they rationalize it at the personnel meetings. So they're going to try to trade him to see if they can get usually when you trade, most times now, when you trade on a deadline, you don't get equal value, but you want to move him on or acquire him to get him ready for the following season. Now, with Kuminga right now, besides not playing, he's actually hurt, Sean. He's got a left knee, a bone bruise, but that will not affect any team as far as it's not structurally. It's more of contusion. So they'll try to move him on. The question is when. His contract is up this year. He makes $22.5 million in NBA terms. That's right where he should be as far as his talent level. Next year, it's a team option. So whoever does trade for him, they're saying philosophically that we can re-sign him for a longer-term contract come July 1st. And so they're going to try to move him on. If they can't, then they'll get a do-over again the week during the NBA draft, the 3rd week of June historically. So it's really fascinating as far as what teams are trying to do. Generally speaking, Sean, that there's 30 NBA teams, 20 teams. Everyone's talking, all 30, but only 10 teams are really serious about trading. Now, part of that, some teams trade players, and some teams only trade contracts. It's a big difference between a player and a contract where I'll trade you this bad contract. They get ready to move on this guy. You trade me your team's bad contract, and then we'll call it even. And then July 1st, we'll get a do-over with each team's new money to get more players here that we want to have a better fit.
Steven Adams had season-ending surgery on his ankle. How big a loss is that right now for the Houston Rockets?
Huge. And the Rockets, give them a lot of credit. Those guys, they're 31-16. 28-17. Pardon me. The 4th seed in the Rockets right now in the West, and so let's not forget that they're playing also with so many other guys that are injured as far as their lineup. Meaning Freddie VanVleet, who's a one-time All-Star, is a big part of their group right now. So now Steven Adams is out with the surgery on his ankle, And now the question is, they have an all-star player, a young guy also is tremendous. He's a poor man's Nikola Jokic and Alperen Şengün. So now Clint Capella, who they thought about possibly trading him because other teams want him, now it will never happen now. So now their two centers will be Şengün, who's a big man passer, can score the ball inside, make outside shots, and makes teammates better. And Clint Capella is a rim protector. And then let's not forget, so now just say one of those guys get hurt between now and the playoffs start. That means that Jeff Green, former Jazz man, would suddenly play at age 39. He'll turn 40 on August 28th. Suddenly he's in a playoff game. Uncle Jeff. That's how fragile. Hey, our team is great. We're going to be great. We're going to rock them in the playoffs. Oh, really? And so when someone gets hurt, everything changes, or a guy doesn't play. Like most people thought that Jeff Green retired 3 years ago. He might be in a playoff game and make a rainbow jump shot and earn his salary in one game.
Can Clint Capella help the Rockets maintain being the best rebounding team in the NBA? Is he good enough at that portion of the game that they can maintain their status there even without Adams in the lineup?
No, the answer is no, he's not. However, so with that said, they have to rebound by committee. So now everyone has to be dogged about it, crashing the offensive glass and also boxing out as far as in rebounding. And so, no, he does not. He's more of a shot blocker, rim runner, high lob, acrobatic plays in the lane. So that's, again, every team. There's no team that's perfect. So every team has certain things that they don't do well. Smart coaching and even better playing is that you hide some of those non-strengths. But in the playoffs, though, that's when you get exposed. Now, in playoff basketball, most times the rotation goes from 11 players to now 8.5. And that's when your better players have to be two-way players where they've got to guard their position in playoff games. And that's why there's so many players that really are ultra-talented, but they fall short in the playoffs because they don't dig in defensively. Or they can't make an outside shot even in a regular season. They're defensive-minded, which is commendable, but now they're asked to make knockdown jump shots in the fourth quarter where the defense doesn't rotate them. They have wide-open threes. The worst thing, Sean, you could ever do in an NBA game is the ball goes swing, swing, swing pass to an open three-point shot, and the shots miss. That's last night, Draymond Green. He goes ugly 0 for 6 from threes. He was wide open. But they kept on passing the ball to him because of why? Because of his status and because of Steph Curry's brilliance. But in a playoff game, 0 for 6, get this guy out of here.
Yeah, that'll kill you when you keep launching them up and there's nothing to show for it. But teams, especially the Warriors, they're willing to live or die by that three-point shot.
Well, that's their DNA, and that's why they have the world's greatest shooter of doing it, and they used to have Klay Thompson, and so they shoot threes. But I mentioned earlier, it's those other guys, that we never talk about. Not that often. Pajensky, he makes threes, but he has a great drive game. Gary Payton didn't even play last night. He's defensive-minded. Moses Moody's a knockdown shooter, but he does guard. Buddy Hield on the team off the bench last night made 4 for 5 from threes. Melton, meaning DeAnthony Melton, gets the ball and he can drive the ball to the basket. Now Will Richard, the young guy from the Florida Gators, he's a knockdown shooter, also defensive-minded. So they've done a good job with their late picks right now, and that's why they're still competitive without Jimmy Butler and a malcontent Jonathan Kuminga. Sean, also with the Warriors, let's not forget, James Wiseman. If the world was perfect, he was the second pick of the draft. When Klay Thompson got hurt and Steph got hurt also, they picked number 2, and it didn't work out. So picture having the second pick, and that big guy worked out. They'd be right there, still right there, because that's brilliance.
Can they do something at this trade deadline to keep them right there in title contention? We'll take a break. We'll come back and talk about that. There's decisions being made on two of the biggest stars of the last 10 years in the NBA. Giannis, yes, but also what's going on with LeBron. We'll get there with Gordy Chiesa on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Gordy Cheese is still hanging out with us here in our Broadway studios on the Sean O'Connell Show. My dog Rocky also hanging out with us here, just sleeping under the broadcast desk. He's really adopted this as his home base. I enjoy it quite a bit. After the chaos of my dog and Spence's dog being in studio at the same time yesterday, and Spence opening that door and letting him run around the office, we will prevent that from happening at least another time. All right, Gordy. So trade deadline approaching. We've been talking about it. We'll continue to talk about it. We'll then talk about the fallout from whatever moves happen. But it seems like the largest domino that will potentially fall is the Greek Freak. Giannis Antetokounmpo is preparing for an exit from a Milwaukee Bucks franchise where he has been a model citizen, a great member of that community, obviously brought them a championship and a league MVP. I mean, this is an unbelievable era of Milwaukee basketball that appears like it might be coming to an end. Where's he going to be?
I think it's going to be possibly Miami.
Interesting.
Possibly, which involves then Tyler Hero and other people involved, and plus draft picks. Possibly Knickerbockers, call Anthony Towns, possibly moving on from him. And there'll be one other surprises as far as teams. But those are the two that would make sense as far as where they would have to trade relatively not star players, but really good players. So, example, the Golden State Warriors. People reporting that they were, again, the Bucks, once they trade Giannis, they're starting over even with Karl Anthony Towns. So they want to build through the draft now. They had the one window for 3-4 years where they had success. They tried Dame Lillard. It didn't work out. No, because of Dame, because he got hurt. And so now they're starting over without even saying it. So the Golden State Warriors, they would love to have Giannis in their team to go forward. So which means that Jimmy Butler, off that surgery, they would try to move him and other people plus first-round picks involved right now. So we will know. Come and show we'll be on the air, next Thursday.
Yeah.
And so we'll know more about what's going to happen right now. It all starts with intensity on Monday morning. That's when it really gets going as far as everybody.
I saw a mock trade that was something like Kuminga and 4 first-round picks, and then you would get Giannis and Kyle Kuzma back. Do we see Kuzma as part of a trade piece, you think?
Yes. He'll be part of it also, right, exactly. Because he's enough talent that people want him on their team, but the Bucks aren't winning. So Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, all those guys, we say the Warriors' point of view, that they're all being involved, but everyone wants to try to get draft capital, because draft capital rules as far as we want a future first-round pick and or picks. And that's what it comes very interesting with teams, how it all plays out with them. And so again, if you're a losing team and you're not winning or you're underperforming, you want to try to get rid of some of your players so that you can build through the draft as far as playing it. I'll give you an example. Just think about last season. Remember last season with the Jazz and the trading deadline? People forget what happened. The Jazz acquired Jalen Hood-Schifino, and they cut him right away. The Jazz acquired also Mo Bamba and P.J. Tucker, and they cut him right away. Then the Jazz acquired a 225 second-round draft pick, which they traded again, 225 second-round draft pick and a 230 second-round draft pick. And so they also acquired Kenyon Martin. So the Jazz will be in play as far as trying to help a team make a three-way trade. The Jazz have some assets, and they want to get some assets back right now. So don't be surprised if the Jazz make some minor moves, even with some of their players, because everybody wants possibly George Niang. I know he hasn't played right now, but he's out there shooting right there. He could help a playoff team as far as being a knockdown shooter coming off the bench right now. So Kyle Anderson could help a team. So the Jazz could make some minor trades to try to help a team get a bigger move for those two for the franchises, while the Jazz keep acquiring draft capital.
while the Jazz are thinking about, like you said, these minor moves, and George Niang, I think, is a good example of what we're talking about here, is he's as valuable, maybe more valuable for what he is in the locker room and in practice than what he is on the floor, certainly right now because he hasn't played. But this is the second youngest team in the league, the Utah Jazz. And veteran leadership, veteran experience, veteran anything is at a premium in organizations like that. Is the price for a George Niang more expensive relatively because he is a veteran guy that does benefit this franchise with that experience, or because you have, Lowry's somewhat of a veteran now, but you have like a Kevin Love, or you have enough that can fill that gap if George Niang is gone that you don't have to treat it that way.
Correct. Yeah. If George was traded out of strength to try to acquire more draft capital, that Kevin Love, if he still remains here, would be the main guy as far as him and Larry Markkinen. But Larry Markkinen is a quiet personality, and that's good. But he has a loud game, which is really positive. So that guy is a tremendous player, Larry Markkinen. Well, really, the leader should be Keontae George, because he has the ball often in the game, and he's a solid player, and that he should be the team leader by his skills and by being vocal. Also, let's not forget that Steve Mihailuk will have some value too, because again, he's a veteran. Especially if someone gets hurt between now and next Thursday, there's some injury, let's say to off the bench performer, and it's suddenly the things change because that guy's out for the season, and now let's trade for so and so.
How many times, Gordy, in your many seasons in and around the NBA, did you have, you're working with the front office, in a front office, in a coaching office, where you kind of think you have the lay of the land in your franchise? All right, we've got, this draft piece, we've got this guy who we know is really good, and maybe we're going to have to be active when the trade deadline comes this year because, we're missing this or we need that. But then those expectations don't end up being the case once you start to play. I ask this question because Keontae George has altered the outlook for this franchise in some ways. Keontae George is now playing a role and playing in a way that a lot of people never expected that he would, and even the people that expected he might be able to do that probably didn't think he was going to flip the switch he has here in the 2025-2026 season. So in a good way, it alters the path of your roster, and it alters the timeline of this rebuild and things like that. How many times have you been on a staff where or been in an organization where that's how it plays out, where that's what, like, how common is this?
Rarely. It's very, very rarely common. So Keontae George, to his credit, it's his third year, and he has emerged. So again, as always, just like in real life, at what age does a person mature? Is it 22? Is it 27? Is it 37? Or is it never? And that's what happened. He's maturing right now, I'm sure, both on and off the court. He's making really great decisions on the court, and that he's really improved. And that changes the Jazz calculus as far as they might not need that position as much as they might have thought as far as in the meetings. And as always, they're always trying to acquire better depth. And that's why it's so important, player development at every level. Can you fast accelerate a player's skill set, and can the experience kick in at what point? And so much is shown is based on also your teammates. So your teammates help you play better. So who's next to you on the court? Who is the guy setting for you that high pick and roll screen that gives Keontae George a chance to catch and fire? And just think about the Jazz, the way they're structured right now. Yusuf Nurkic, I know he's had that triple-double till last night, but he's also a very valuable screener. So with that big body and that we call wide screening action comes flying off Larry Markkinen and/or Keontae George, that is very important part of why those guys are scoring a lot more and with more efficiency because of the screening game. Houston Rockets, mentioned before about Steven Adams, one of the best screeners in the NBA. So suddenly, all those guys with the Rockets, when they get that ball, because if Steven Adams sets that almost like that New Zealand Rocket Gibraltar screen where it's almost impossible. And Jazz yesteryear, that was Mark Eaton. It's part of John Stockton's brilliance, which is by himself. However, he was aided by his teammates, including Mark Eaton. So picture right now, Mark Eaton setting a screen at 7'4", 305 pounds, a legal screen, and you're Xing the defense to try to navigate over around that screening action. And that gives the dribbler or the cutter daylight. That split second of getting daylight in a game makes the game slow down for you to make a better decision and be more efficient, whether it's a jump shot, whether it's a rim strike, or whether it's shooting over the top of a three-point shot. So screening is absolutely important, and that's why Keontae George, to his credit, he's getting some good screens from his floor mates, and that's why he's able to really accelerate his growth. And from a franchise point of view, now, Sean, the contract is relatively tame right now, and I'm sure the Jazz will give him the extension when the time comes up.
LeBron James got emotional. The Cleveland Cavaliers played a little tribute video for him. Cavs ended up smashing the Lakers in that game, 129-99. And, there's a lot of people who think this is the last time LeBron James is going to play in Cleveland, that maybe this is the final year of his career, et cetera, et cetera. We saw the emotion, but LeBron is prone to be effusive, emotional, demonstrative at times. What'd you make of that reaction to his tribute video?
I think it was sincere. He's born in Akron, Ohio. He's homegrown. The Cavs are his childhood team, and he had some great moments there. And he led them to their only championship in 2016. And I think it was real. And like all players, especially LeBron type, it's coming to the end. And is the end this year or the following season? I mean, let's give the math right now. Right now, he's 41 years young. And to have this 23rd season in the NBA, to play that long and that well is remarkable. And that's what his mind is going through as he sees himself, 20 years ago when he's playing for the Cavs as a very young person, and now he's an elder statesman. Now, from the Lakers' point of view, is that LeBron's contract is $52.6 million this year, and his contract is up. So far there's been very little discussion about him re-signing him. Now we'll see how it plays out. We all know his agent, Rich Paul of Clutch Sports. He's gonna try to get the best situation for LeBron if he decides to play.
Should we be taking the lack of news about an extension as an impending retirement, as the Lakers not interested in having a player of his age and contribution be part of their organization moving forward now that they've got some young talent? And it's Luka's team now, and Reeves has proved to be really good. How should we read the tea leaves of LeBron and the Lakers not being publicly in talks of extending him?
That the Lakers probably are going to move on from him.
Oh, interesting.
Probably, yeah. And remember, with LeBron, you have to pay Austin Reeves, and deservingly so, because he's part of the future. So just for the narrative, probably Austin Reeves is going to make starting – roughly $40 million, we'll say, my math, just $40 million times 4 or 5 years. Okay. So, the Lakers have a lot of guys on one-year contracts. So the Lakers could have $100 million next summer. $40 million will go to Austin Reeves. The other $60 million, they can try to get the guys that they need at a younger version to help them remain relative in the very, very tough West. Remember, L.A. Lakers, they're a franchise that's based on star power. So think about the Lakers: Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. So they do star power better than anybody else in the NBA. And sometimes when there's things that are a little bit wayward, being in L.A. and Hollywood does drama very well. It's perfectly normal in L.A. to have drama. It's no big deal. Whether you're with the movie industry or whether it's the NFL, whether it's Major League Baseball, with the Dodgers, it's irrelevant. That drama is all part of being in Hollywood.
Luka turned his ankle because of that. Well, maybe I shouldn't say because of it. To me, it seems like because of that elevated court that the Cavs have.
Yeah.
How are we playing with this in modern NBA basketball?
No, you're exactly right. So for Sean's alluding to that the court is slightly above where the coaches' seats are, where the players' seats are. So the seats for where the players and coaches and trainer where they sit. And
it's like a 10-inch step down.
That's exactly right. And Sean, when I coached for 20 years there, I was very conscious of that. Please don't slip like a schmuck like me. Don't slip on the thing and rip my Achilles, because I yelled at I was yelling out the team defense to Adam Kiefer to get back in recovery and stop the ball. And that's what happened. So Lucas slipped, and he got slightly injured, which shows you that. But I know the NBA, I'm sure they wanted to address that, but for whatever reason, it hasn't come to fruition right now. So it's elevated. Sean, I thought that every field should be the same, except in baseball. Wrigley Field, part of the outfield of Fenway Park. But as far as the playing surface, it should be all universal.
So my understanding is, and I, like probably everyone else in America, was looking this up after you see someone of Luka's prominence get hurt because of that. You look at, okay, why is it like that? It wasn't always like that. Why is it like that? It's like that because of not NHL ice, AHL ice underneath the floor. Now, if Ryan Smith told me that he had to do this with the Utah Jazz floor to accommodate the Mammoth, I'm like, ooh, that's a tough. All right, I get it. Your NHL team's bringing in just as much as your NBA team right now, and your NHL team is actually a little bit further along in their development. So, like, if you have to do something that's not great on the NBA side to accommodate the NHL, all right, I'll listen to that. We're not talking about an NHL team. We're talking about the Cleveland Monsters of the American Hockey League. This is minor league hockey. This is AAA stuff here, and you're potentially hurting Luka Doncic to accommodate that. That, it feels like, just from a legal, financial, business standpoint, it makes zero sense.
I'm sure they're going to readjust that right now as far as look at it differently after this injury. Also, the Cavaliers players all those years, that could have been LeBron James getting hurt when he played for the Cavs all those times, or Kyrie Irving. And so your home team's also at risk as far as doing that.
Also, we've seen this year how quickly and how effectively arena changes can happen. It's not something you can fix today, right now, during this 2025-2026 season, but it could absolutely not be an issue for 2027, 2026, 2027. You could get it fixed in a single offseason, no doubt.
Oh, no doubt, very much. So the question is, will they? Let's stay attuned and see how it plays out.
What's your list today, Gordy?
My list today, as All-Star Weekend is heading very soon in California, meaning L.A., on February 13th. February 13th and Friday, and Sunday, February 15th. I was off for a second. I was pausing, looking at January right now. So this list today is the last 10 years of All-Star Weekend 3-point contest winners. Yes, 3-point contest winners. As the dunk contest has lost some of its glamour the last, we'll say, 20 years, even though sometimes it is exciting, but generally speaking, that people are saying the best dunkers aren't in it. The 3-point shooting contest is a whole different thing. All right, so here's the last 10 years, the winner. 2016, Klay Thompson with the Warriors. It was done in Toronto. 2017, Eric Gordon of the Rockets was done in New Orleans. 2018, Devin Booker of the Suns. That was in L.A. 2019, Joe Harris of the Nets. That was in Charlotte, North Carolina. 2020, he played last night versus the Jazz. Buddy Hield of the Kings. That was in Chicago. 2021, yes, Steph Curry of the Warriors did it in Atlanta. 2022, interesting. This guy is a big guy, 7-footer. Yes, Karl Anthony Towns of that time, the Timberwolves, won it in Cleveland. 2023, Weber State great, the pride of Ogden, Utah, the pride of Oakland, California, Dame Lillard of the Trailblazers, did it here in Salt Lake City in 2023. 2024, Dame again, this time with the Bucks. And Indianapolis was the winner. And last year's winner from the Miami Heat was Tyler Hero. And that game was done in San Francisco quickly. What about the economics of it? Did you know, Sean, that the winner of the three-point shooting contest makes $60,000, the runner-up makes $40,000, and the third-place finisher makes $25,000? Historically, what about in Jazz basketball? Jeff Hornacek was a two-time winner of the three-point shooting contest in 1998 and also in 2000. But remember, in 1999, there was no All-Star game because of the lockout. Where the owners and players, they were in a labor dispute battle. So Jeff Hornacek might have won 3 in a row. Speaking of 3 in a row, Larry Bird and Craig Hodges are the only people that ever won 3 contests as far as three-point shooting. Larry Bird did it the first year of the contest in 1986, which was really 40 years ago, 1987 and 1988. And Craig Hodges of the Bulls did it in 1990, 1991, and 1992. My last point about this, which is really so interesting, the question is, what is the most ever made three-point shots in the contest, Sean? What do you think? The most ever consecutive three-point shots made. Porter, what do you think? Consecutive.
13.
All right, 13. Porter, what do you think?
8.
8. Okay. I'm glad you guys don't work for NASA as far as being scientists and engineers, because instead of going to Pluto, we're going to Mars right now. Yes, the answer is by Craig Hodges. He made 19 straight three-point shots in 1991. 19 in a row, yes.
All right, I want to be clear. Price is Right rules. I won the Showcase Showdown. I was closer with my 13. Sorry.
So I'm glad you guys don't work for NASA. Porter, thank you for working for ESPN Radio 700 here in very fashionable Salt Lake City.
So Hornacek with the only Jazz man who won a three-point contest.
Yeah, Larry Markkinen was in it, but did not advance as far as making either 1, 2, or 3. It's a skill. It's a skill as far as making it, and also the pressure of making those shots. You're a knockdown shooter, but it's different in the game, and you've got to have perfect form to make those shots. And Jeff Hornacek, one of the all-time great shooters, and last night Steph Curry just made so many great shots. Sean, before the game, Steph made back-to-back half-court shots. Before the game,
his little warm-up routine where he shoots from the tunnel and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Does he do that on the road or only at home?
No, both places, home and away. So it's legendary, and it's packed. So there's probably 1,000 fans there courtside with the cameras taking him. He made back-to-back half-court shots.
Wow, that guy's crazy. An absolute joy to watch.
Yes, he is.
The only thing I wish that everyone, right? Because everyone wanted to be Steph Curry. I wish that people were better at realizing they're not Steph Curry, because everyone thinks they can be. They pull up, they shoot like he does. They shoot when their feet aren't set, when they're moving away from the basket, thinking that they can have the same kind of success that he does. I know he's not deliberately setting a bad example, but his greatness has set a bad example for a lot of people.
Very much so. Sean's alluding to that every level, whether it's grade school basketball, high school basketball, junior college, Division I, II, III, etc., or big bad NBA, is that often people are misguided as far as their shooting mentality, where I'll just keep shooting until I make it. And that's commendable if you did that in shooting drills. But your teammates are saying, what is up with my guy right now, or my girl, as far as keep firing three-point shots? So sometimes you can shoot recklessly and hurt your team to the extreme to get yourself going. Long time ago, Sean, that's when John Starks in Game 6 of the NBA Finals shot 2 for 18 in the game. Now, all players have bad shooting nights, but he went 0 for 11, and the Rockets beat the Knickerbockers and that was the night of the O.J. Simpson chase, Sean, on a Friday night.
Wow.
And that made the Rockets win their first championship. 2 for 18, 0 for 11 from threes.
On Thursdays, we get a full hour of Gordy Chiesa, courtesy of our friends at America First Credit Union and Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. What a pleasure having you in here again, Gordy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
That's Gordy Chiesa. The Daily Dump is next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on a Thursday, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Plumbing needs, call Valley Plumbing. HVAC needs, call Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Air. They're the same company. They're doing it all now. If you got a furnace issue, you're anticipating maybe an air conditioner issue for the spring, the summer. It was coughing and dying when you shut it off back in the fall. They can handle it all for you now. Look for the truck with the duck. Tell them OC sent you when you give them a call. Porter Larson, are you a white chocolate fan? Not the food, but Jason Williams.
We're macadamia nut. I like milk chocolate, dark chocolate.
I'm talking about nicknames here. Jason Williams,
J-Dub,
most famously of the Sacramento Kings in the 90s. You a J-Dub fan?
Yeah.
By the way,
those Kings teams were really fun.
If you enjoyed watching the man play basketball, you should spend, like an hour on YouTube or wherever and find his legendary run as a podcast guest. The guy has some of the best, most hilarious stories sitting down with old teammates podcasts. You get him and Vernon Maxwell together.
Yep.
It's just it's hilarious. As long as you don't mind a little bit of language, Jason Williams has some stories to tell about his time in the NBA.
I think you expect that maybe from old J-Dub.
Sure.
But yeah, he's a phenomenal podcast guest. We ought to effort him for the OC show.
We should try to get him on at some point. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that are fans of Jason Williams. When you hear about memorabilia collection, it's often like headlines about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. It's like the big time. It's the perennial all-star, the Hall of Fame type dudes. Jason Williams' rookie jersey sold for $140,000. You got to be a dedicated J-Dub fan to pay $140,000 for his rookie jersey.
Yeah, that's a hefty price. That used to be a house.
Game worn, by the way. Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because I was like, to pay a house. No, it's not. You can't get a house. You can't even get like a 1-bedroom studio apartment for $140,000 anymore in Utah.
You can't get a condo.
The house that I grew up in, my parents, we moved here in 92. They paid less than $140,000 for the 5-bedroom house that I grew up in Sandy. Now that's not a reality. Okay. We all know that. We all suffer through it together, but somewhere this is the price of a home.
You could get your 10% down.
Yeah. You could do your whatever the 3% down required for first time home buyer at $140,000.
There you go.
I'm sure there's still places in America where you can buy a house for this. So if you're from there, you have paid a house's ransom for a Jason Williams rookie jersey. I actually kind of love this. If you're I don't know why when I was in third grade, I decided that the New York Knicks and very specifically Patrick Ewing were my favorite thing in basketball. And I collected as many Patrick Ewing trading cards as I could find. A kid who at that time had never been to New York City, had no reason to be connected to New York City, who part of the reason he loved Patrick Ewing was because of Georgetown University, another team that he had never seen in person, and a city he had never at that point been to. But that's just the way it works. And I was an avid collector of Patrick Ewing stuff for like all of elementary school.
Okay.
Strange. Quirky.
I had similar feelings with Iverson.
All right.
Melo a little bit as well.
Okay.
My late father had like every Emmitt Smith card, I think, known to man.
Cool.
A bunch of them signed and whatnot. So I hear you on like the random, very specific player or star that you go after, or maybe like not so star.
Now, all of those ones we mentioned, right? Ewing, Hall of Famer, Dream Teamer, etc. The guys that you talked about, Hall of Famers, All-Stars, perennial All-Stars, right? Emmitt Smith, record holder. For some people,
GOAT.
Very few people, he's the GOAT. But his numbers were huge, right? Like, those guys all make sense. explaining to your friends, your wife, whatever, that you just spent 140 grand on. He's not an obscure player, but he's not exactly like first ballot anything. I just spent 140 grand on a Jason Williams jersey. People are going to be like, dude, I know you're rich, but that's dumb. That's a weird thing.
I hope that Jason sold it. I hope at least he was the one that is on the receiving end.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets it. Crazy. Trouble in paradise if Denver is paradise, which it's not. Denver is not cool. I'm anti-Denver, as I've firmly established on the show here. There's now a little scuttlebutt around the Denver Broncos organization that Bo Nix, who had a press conference yesterday, had that press conference specifically to refute things that Sean Payton said about Bo Nix, and very specifically Bo Nix's ankle injury, and even more specifically his history of ankle injuries. That Bo Nix is like, coach said some stuff, let me set the record straight. This is never a good thing if that's the reason behind why you're communicating with the media. If there's a disconnect between somebody as important as the head coach of a franchise and the starting quarterback of a franchise, that is far from ideal. I don't know if I'm fully bought into the fact that this is evidence of serious problems, but the timing of both Sean Payton's comments, some firings, and then Bo Nix being like, well, hold on here. And the tone in which he delivered some of these updates, by the way, where people are like, well, what about this? He's like, Sean Payton doesn't actually know how many times I've injured my ankle, so he shouldn't say that.
Right. He seemed a little annoyed. An odd place to be with your head football coach. My question is, if this was something that was always going to happen, if it was something that was, what did Sean Payton say? Like, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he said it was imminent or something.
He said he was like predisposed or something of that nature.
The guy that we watched start and play in more college football games than anyone ever. Why didn't I don't know. I feel like we would have maybe heard something about it before if that were the case. And then, for your starting quarterback to come out and kind of refute what you said a day later seems odd. Is this because they, get into a contract year and Bo Nix doesn't want this to be like the main thing? Maybe Sean Payton wants him to be less on the market when it comes to the dollar signs. I don't know. But definitely odd to not be on the same page and to go out and have press conferences rather than chatting with each other and then maybe going and doing a press conference. It's weird. Definitely a weird place to be for a head coach and a starting quarterback.
Yeah, what Sean Payton says, I think what was found, though, was that a condition was like predisposed, referring to multiple ankle injuries.
I mean, and here's the thing. If you folks who have sprained their ankle, who have had ankle problems, you understand that, they don't totally go away in certain ways. So what was this, like maybe a injury that already happened in the year? Maybe he was nursing a sprained ankle or some sort of strain throughout the year, and then this happened. Is that what Sean Payton's talking about, or is this like a long-term? I don't know if you remember Steph Curry early in his career. Dude, his ankles were keeping him from being what he is.
I was working on the Warriors flagship station when he was like, it was such a funny thing in hindsight. And I was working with a guy, Matt Steinmetz, who's been a guest on the show, but who is like, he's a Warriors insider. That's his presence in sports media. And we were talking about this same Steph Curry as like, he might end up being a bust because he's never able to stay healthy. Like he's got like paper ankles. And thank goodness Steph Curry figured it out. Can you imagine if we had never seen the good version of Steph Curry, the healthy version of Steph Curry?
And maybe that's all Bo Nix needs is, I don't know if you've seen like Steph's equipment, his shoe and his ankle brace. They're like a one-piece thing. It's very high tech, very new age.
Speaking of that, that Steph Curry,
there you go, Bo.
that Steph Curry is now a shoe-free agent. And it's anticipated he's going to be signing with Nike for some absurd, like, $900 million deal, whatever it's going to be. Steph Curry, love the guy. Big fan of Steph Curry. The Steph Curry shoe, the Steph Curry Under Armour shoes are an unwearable, hideous travesty.
Yeah, they've never been good looking.
You can't.
You can't. They're just trying to help his ankles, I think.
Yeah,
which is
honestly wonderful. Functionally great. Wonderful. I am eager to see what Nike cooks up in their top secret shoe lab for a Steph Curry signature shoe. Because look, let's be honest, there's a lot of Nike signature shoes out there that are not great. But Steph Curry won't let that happen. Can't let that happen. They've done really well as of late. The Sabrina Ionescu shoe, awesome. The Asia Wilson shoe, awesome. The Devin Booker shoes, awesome. I need Steph Curry to be like somewhere between Jordans and Kobe's. LeBron's, I don't like any of the LeBron shoes. I like a lot of the Jordans. I like somewhat fewer of the Kobe's, but still like them.
Mm-hmm.
I need Steph Curry to be in there somewhere.
The Jordan shoes are the best looking still.
Yeah.
The OG ones for sure. I do like the looks of a lot of Kobe shoes. LeBron shoes were my favorite to play in. They're like really good shoes.
That makes sense to me.
But you're wearing like a big block with a strap on it.
They're less of a street style shoe, a lifestyle shoe, and more of a like be good at basketball shoe.
Right.
I also
think
one of my gripes with the LeBron shoes is if you are not built like a bronze statue, like some sort of demigod with the proportions of a LeBron James, the shoes look weird.
Yeah.
They look cool on him, but if you're like a dad bod white guy from Salt Lake City and you throw on a LeBron high top, it's probably like, come on, dude.
And the Stephs will be probably high tops based on what we have talked about.
Gotta be. A Steph Curry low top is just like a shoe that injures you as soon as you put it on.
You just roll your ankle out of bed.
It's gonna be
a golf shoe. That's what he golfs in.
The bottom of the sole where you put your foot on a Steph shoe, it's gonna be like convex so that your ankle rolls one way or another.
There you go.
If you put it on. I have to bring this to the air before we get done with the Daily Dump because Gordy came in just shooting from the hip with this. We were talking about the Super Bowl, the upcoming matchup, and Gordy has regaled us with the tales of his Catholic upbringing, Catholic school upbringing. He knows I was raised Catholic as well, and he pointed this out to me. I had not yet seen this, but apparently Porter was also aware of it. There is a link between the Seattle Seahawks going to the Super Bowl and new popes being elected that goes back decades now. In 2005, the Catholic Church elected Pope Benedict XVI. The Seahawks made it to the Super Bowl that year. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI was replaced with Pope Francis, and the Seahawks won that Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos. In 2025, which is, of course, when this most recent NFL season, this current NFL season started, the Catholic Church elected Pope Leo XIV, and the Seahawks are Super Bowl bound yet again. All right? You numerologists out there, you Nostradamus, you folks that are into the horoscopes and whatever else, put this on your pile, man. This is not once. Okay. Twice, that's coincidence. 3 times is a trend, Porter.
So you're saying if you're a Seahawks fan, you want to see smoke from the conclave?
I guess, yeah. More likely if you're a Seahawks fan, because I think in general they're usually bad people. You want to see – no, I'm not going to say it. It's too harsh of a joke.
I was going to say, because usually when the smoke comes from the conclave –
You know why? You know why they're electing a new pope.
Right.
So that's what you're rooting for, Seahawks fans? Thanks a lot.
It's perfect for you.
There's 1 billion Catholics around the world that are mad about you rooting for that. Wow. What a weird thing to be connected.
You got to really pick your allegiances if you're a Seahawks fan and a Catholic.
I need to know if the Seattle Seahawks ownership group is like hardcore Catholics or something, because this is a very, very odd connection.
Yeah, we'll have to stay tuned. The current pope's a younger guy, not young, but like compared to other popes, right?
First American pope also. Yes.
So it might be a while until we see the Seahawks back in the Super Bowl, according to this coincidence. Although I was told once there are no coincidences.
Wow. I just Googled Pope Leo the 14th, and the first 3 stories are about the Pope warning of overly affectionate AI chatbots. Can you imagine? You've worked your way all the way up through the ladder of the Catholic Church and the ultimate ancient bureaucracy, right? And you're just like, I wonder what the hot topics of my papacy are going to be. And you're looking back on it and you're just like, I'm going to solve world peace. I'm going to cure the ills of the world in terms of the great afflictions of cancer and HIV. And then they're just like, hey, what we really need to address right now is people getting tricked by overly affectionate AI chatbots, Pope. Not what he envisioned, I imagine.
It might just be a sign of the times there, Sean O'Connell.
Yikes.
That's where we're at this point.
Just terrible. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, that's your daily dump. Look for the truck with the duck for all your plumbing and drain cleaning, and now your HVAC needs as well. Tell them OC sent you. A quick leaderboard update on the other side, and then Eric Weddle to start hour number 3. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. right, let's take a look at the PGA Tour leaderboard update from the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines in La Jolla, California. Round 1 in progress, and let's see what we've got here. We've got Greiserman, Max Greiserman, 6 under, Justin Lauer, 5 under, Max McGreevy, 5 under, Eric Cole, and several others sitting at 4 under through 10. Justin Lauer, currently in second place, is through 11 on the course. It aesthetically very, very pleasing. We're watching it on the television in front of me right now. Torrey Pines, one of the more famous courses, obviously, we've got here in the United States of America. The North Course, par 72 at 72.50. And the South Course, par 72, 77.65. How much golf you playing these days, Porter?
None.
Okay, same.
Unfortunately.
All right.
It's been a few years since I actually played any amount of golf. A friend invites me a random time that I'm free. I'll go hit some balls. I'll go smack some balls around, but actually playing around a golf more than once in a month. I don't know, pandemic time.
Wow. Well, the best thing to get you back into golf, if you're somebody like Porter, or if you're someone who, even at age 42, has yet to really adopt the game itself, like me, well, Uinta Golf's got you covered. You need a new set of clubs. All up and down the Wasatch Front, Uinta Golf has great deals going on right now on all your golf apparel, your clubs, your bags. You can get a golf cart there if you want to. And, of course, as always, the best selection of golf balls by the bucket, by the sleeve, whatever you need at Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. That's your leaderboard update from the Farmers Insurance Open. You can watch it on CBS, ESPN, the Golf Channel, Paramount Plus. They really have you covered on all bases when it comes to the PGA Tour and finding their product on television. All right, we got to take a break here. We'll start hour number 3 with the Utah football legend, the NFL legend, Eric Weddle. I imagine he will have some thoughts on the recent reports, the big news this week in the NFL as we await the Super Bowl, not this coming weekend, but next. Bill Belichick, not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The votes and the voters decided that he's got to wait at least a year before that happens. We'll see what Weddle thinks about that and much more, including a Super Bowl matchup. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3. Welcome in the legend himself, Eric Weddle, who joins us every Thursday to talk all things football. Weddle, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Just sitting here with Jordan Gross, the new and upcoming superstar of the Utah Youth coaching staff. Hey, Jordan, you want to say what's up?
Let's go, Jordan
What's
Gross!
going on? Go Utes. Out here recruiting, so send all your linemen my way, please.
Oh, my gosh. Officially. Hey, you know what? You got to get away from Eric Weddle if you're recruiting linemen. That dude's allergic to taking on a block. You cannot. You don't want Eric Weddle around offensive line conversation.
He's mad at me because I told him he was short, and he said he's average. I said, well, you're more than average, but you're still short, buddy.
Oh, what a great pleasure to hear from 2 Utah legends, 2 for the price of 1. Dub, I texted you about this semi-jokingly, but Bill Belichick is not a first-ballot Pro Football Hall of Famer. Everyone has thoughts on it. What are yours?
Oh, my goodness. Well, now I know that door is officially closed when it was never open to start with for Eric Weddle's chances. It's kind of interesting, and again, when I say this, I don't think it should have any bearing on whether you make the Hall of Fame or not. I thought it was a travesty that Terrell Owens had to wait. Like, I mean, come on, what are we doing? But it also goes back to how you treat people. Were you nice? Were you kind? Were you respectful? And I don't know who it was, but it was more than one. And unfortunately, when these people in positions of power, per se, wanted to puff out their chests and make a decision, and it's again, obviously, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he should be. And it's ridiculous that he's not. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a good reminder to treat people the way you'd want to be treated.
For the sake of argument, because we know that he's going to get in, right? But how should we treat guys who are caught cheating, whether it's performance-enhancing drugs, whether it's Spygate type stuff? I don't really care about deflated footballs, but like stealing signals, maybe listening to another team's play calls and the other things that the Patriots were accused of under his watch. Those are significant, in my opinion. It's not a disqualifier. In baseball it is. Apparently in football it's not. But whatever. Different discussion. How should we treat people who are caught cheating, punished for cheating during some of their period of greatness when it comes to Hall of Fame voting?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't affect Richard Seymour. It didn't affect. It won't affect Tom Brady. So, is it different for coaches? Has it? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I just know he's probably the greatest coach ever. And so he supposedly cheated. I don't really know this for sure. So you take 2 Super Bowls away or 3 Super Bowl, whatever. He still has 7 to his name. Like what is? I just don't understand. What is the point? Like what are we trying to get out of this? Like you're going to punish him and make him wait 1 year? Like what? Why? Is it because of that? Because he cheated? Was it the cheating scandals? Was it the way he treated? Like I don't really know. I just know at the end of the day, like it just makes it kind of look not valid. Like. What are we trying to do? It's what you did on the field, and I know some of the things that they did at New England, like the videotaping walkthroughs and that stuff was like kind of shady. But I mean, the guy is as accomplished as anybody, and he should be in there.
He will eventually. We know that. I want to get to the Super Bowl matchup here eventually, but some other big news around the league, including for your former team, the Ravens. They've hired Jesse Minter, and we talked about him being one of the candidates who was maybe the right fit for the Baltimore Ravens. I know you love John Harbaugh. They have replaced him with a guy who has a great reputation as well. What do you think of Minter to the Ravens?
Yeah, I think a new face, new blood, new vision, new voice it was needed there by all accounts from what it seemed. And you get someone that has ties to the Ravens, so you understand the building, you understand the organization, ownership, the standard. I think it really can have the effects of Mike Macdonald and what he's done in Seattle and what he had to come after, right? Like, he was coming into a situation that was not easy with the success that Pete Carroll had there and coming in his shadow, and he, with 2 feet down, did his own thing, his own passion, his own vision, took pitchers down in the building and created an identity and culture that resonates not just throughout their team and organization, but you can feel it listening to him after games, post-game conference comments. And so I think Jesse is right in line with that. They're very similar personality-wise. They're more collaborative, working together. It's not about me, it's about the players type attitude. And I think when you have that and you really build a connection with the players and really make it about us and not about me versus you to get it done, I think it really breeds success in the long run.
What do you make of what we're seeing with Denver? Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos with an exit last week on an injured quarterback. I think that goes probably a little bit differently. Could have gone differently even with the backup. I think it might have gone differently if Bo Nix had been in there. He fires his receivers coach. He fires his DBs coach. He fires his offensive coordinator. And then Bo Nix has his own press conference to kind of refute some of the things that his coach said. Now, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but is there any smoke or fire that Broncos fans should be worried about when it comes to that stuff we've seen?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see after a game just the wheels fall off of, how about you fire yourself for not taking the points going up 10-0? That's what I would say, and that's what I would actually ask him. And knowing he's like, yeah, he tries to spin it off like, well, I wish I had a better call. Well, you didn't, and you're probably the main reason why you lost that game for your teammates or for your team that you're supposed to lead and put them in the best position possible. So if I was one of those leaders, that's what I would say instead of him firing everybody and trying to paint the picture like it was everyone else except you. So, and Sean's very successful, and I've actually enjoyed interactions with him outside of football. But to me, he's not a guy that I would go to bat for now. You're kind of a guy that's at face value that at the end of the day you're going to look out for yourself. And so I'm not really that type of person, and I want people that own their mistakes and stand tall in the face of adversity, and that doesn't seem like the case for him. So I love that Bo got up there. I didn't really hear his comments, but it seemed like he was trying to refute what was being said and how he was injured, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, hey, I like that, man. It's very few times do you get the chance to stand up for yourself and stand up for the last name that you represent every single day. And if you feel like it's being slandered or slighted, it is your duty to stand up for what is right.
Eric Weddle's our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things football. Dabo Swinney went on this huge rant, calling out Ole Miss and pulling receipts and pulling timestamps.
Oh, man, I watched that whole thing. Go ahead.
I loved it because, look, very few coaches in college football will do this or can do this because they know they're guilty and their closets are full of skeletons too. Dabo, I'm sure, has plenty of skeletons in the closet, but he doesn't care, right? He's a guy, he was just calling out the mess. He was calling out, as an example, what happened with one particular guy. This is a linebacker. This is not even like a high-profile quarterback. And it was fascinating to get, all of the layers peeled back so we could see into this mess. And he wants something to be done. Do you think anything will be done?
Does something need to be done? Yes. Will it get done? No. Because who's going to govern this? What are you going to take away? If you have illegal tampering, you lose draft picks. You get fined millions of dollars. Your owner, and the owners don't like losing money. So when you're taking their money, that puts you on notice that if you do something stupid like this again, you're fired. So I don't know. It happens. Of course it happens, and it's really unfortunate. So you just try have some integrity, and it needs to be called out because there's a lot of this stuff going on that's just not right, and it puts these players in tough spots where if they're not getting this persuaded or getting notified to join the portal and we got this for you and I'm going to pay you this. If that stuff never happens, a lot of these kids will stay because they're happy and they're good. But then you entice them with more money. They're not very mature enough and understand the big picture to understand, like, hey, it's probably not what's best for you to leave and do the portal, and now you're stuck in the portal. So call it out, call out these shady dudes, and hopefully we can get some progress of doing it the right way.
Well, that was one of the things that for me with this story was a little bit heartbreaking because, and you listened to the whole thing, so you know this as well as I do, their guy, Clemson's guy, who was a transfer already from Cal, was trying to be loyal and trying to tell the team, hey, Ole Miss is calling me, they're messing with me, I'm going to stay here. But just so you know, this is what they're saying. And through that process that Dabo time-stamped and everything and brought everyone's name up, we saw a situation where this kid, Luke Farrelly, who was trying to do the right thing, like we got to watch the process where his price was named. You know what I mean? Like everyone's got a price to sell out. You're at a point in your life where it's significantly higher and your name means a lot more. I don't know if whatever 20-year-old Eric Weddle would have been like, oh, you got $2 million for me? Okay, then I'm still going to be loyal. Maybe yes, maybe no. But you could see this kid was trying to do the right thing for Clemson and by Clemson, and it didn't work out because ultimately the money pulled him into the portal, and we got to see the example of how that happens where he said no, and then the offer came where he was just like, well, that's an offer I can't refuse. And that's a little bit – that was sad for me to see because you could tell the intentions of the kid with those early messages and how those good intentions were overcome ultimately by the mess and the money.
Yeah, I mean, money – they say money is the root of all evil. So, and especially 20-year-olds that may have nothing, have come from nothing, that are looking at this as a chance to make a difference, not just for themselves, but other people that have had impact on them. So we're just making it really, really hard for our young people to make the decision that's what's best for them for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And there just has to be something to be said that being a part of a place, building those relationships, the continuity, graduating, and those the people that you have within that institution are what's going to last much longer than the money that's you're getting right now. And so you just hope these universities are educating the kids and making them see the big picture of what's most important in life, and it's not always the dollar sign.
All right, let's talk about the Super Bowl matchup. Pats, Seahawks, much to my chagrin, the Seahawks made it through. I know that's not the outcome you wanted either because your beloved Rams gave you a Super Bowl ring or helped you earn that Super Bowl ring, and they came oh so close to having another opportunity at that. But now that we know the matchup, handicap it for me. How do you see this thing playing out?
Yeah, I think I think it'll be a competitive game. They're going to have 2 weeks to prepare. I just think Seattle's just too good across the board. Coaching, situational football, Darnold, the way he played in that championship game. I just think they're more dynamic. I think they're defensively, I think they present more issues. As long as Seattle's not playing the Rams, they just pretty much shut down everybody. So I think it's going to be hard pressed for Drake May to really have the success needed to win a Super Bowl. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I think Seattle's going to win, and I don't know if it'll be close, if I'm being honest.
What is this week right now like for the players that are getting ready for this Super Bowl? You obviously played in Jordan Gross, who you're with, played his rookie year in a Super Bowl. What the 2 weeks between the conference championship weekend and Super Bowl weekend. What is it like as we're approaching weekend number 1 here?
Well, this first week is really getting your body back, depending on how beat up you are from the games and the season. You know, I was in a bad shape after that Niner game, and so that next week I don't even know if I even practiced because I was in just really beat up. So really just getting ahead of the game plan, really getting ahead of your opponent, watching tons of film, trying to get ahead of the schematics of what we're going to do, who are we taking care of, what are they going to be some checks, early on checks, and then I think you usually get the weekend off. So if I remember, I think we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and then back on a Monday morning, and it was normal game week from there. So the whole week really is to get ahead, to get some reps if you can, depending on the health of your team, and getting your body back so you are as fresh as possible when that game hits next Sunday.
From an emotional standpoint and a mental standpoint, what is the load like? Because especially, you know, as you get later into your career and when you came back to play for the Rams, you knew that was going to be your final opportunity to get a ring that all of us wanted to see you get, and you obviously had worked so hard for so long. What is the mental load like when you're trying to keep it like a regular week of preparation, but it's not just any other game, it's the damn Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing that really makes the Super Bowl difficult is how much dang time in between every timeout, and the halftime show is 48 minutes, and you got The Rock yelling at the top of his lungs for 4 minutes before kickoff, and we're just like, can we just kick the ball off? And why are you like screaming at everybody? Everyone wants to watch the game, not you screaming. So I think it's just handling that, like handling everything outside of the game becomes the biggest issue. I think once the ball is in the air and you're playing, it's just like every other game. It's just who executes, who's all the cliche things, who wins the turnover battle, field position, yada, 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 who doesn't hurt themselves, pre-snap penalties. But how do you handle halftime, right? And I think experience matters, because if you don't handle the halftime and you warm up too early, or you warm up too late, or you know, like if you sneak out to watch Snoop Dogg at halftime, like, I don't know, you know, but those are the things that I think are the issues surrounding the actual game. Everything else, you just try to keep the same, keep your same routine. Don't make it more. When you make it more than what it is, then you press and then you do stupid mistakes.
Wait, does anyone actually sneak out and watch the halftime performance?
I think a kicker said that they went out. Like, I think it was this season or something.
That's cool.
I know kickers aren't real people, so
that's
it's okay.
That's a different deal. Kickers can do whatever they want. They're strange. What is the high school head coach world like right now? What are you doing with this off season with your guys?
Right now we're just slowly, you know, like we've planned out the next 4 months. We're planning spring ball and scheduling, and that you have to replenish the helmets. They got to get recertified. We got jerseys, equipment, yada, yada, yada. But right now, specifically fourth period, we're doing 3 days a week, lifting with about 20 minutes in the classroom. So we do like hot seat, we do culture building, team building type activities. And then the other 2 days we do like football school 101. Like, I'm trying to emphasize like the game, teaching them the game, situational football. You know, why am I calling this call? What is the purpose of the situation? So we can go out and be great. So that's right now. Then April hits, we'll go 4 days a week in the weight room, and that'll lead to spring ball. And and the season's here, so we got to rock after that point.
If I was a good friend, I would know the answer to this question already. But which senior All-Star game did you participate in coming out?
The Senior Bowl.
Down in Mobile, Alabama, going through the practices, et cetera. What was that experience like for you as a guy? People got to remember, this was Mountain West Conference, University of Utah. This is not Power 4 Utah. This is a much less established version of what the program was at that time. So, you know, you were a small school guy compared to what some of the other players down there were. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a huge get when I got the invite. It was a really big deal. I mean, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's a high percentage of guys that go to Senior Bowl usually get drafted because it's the best of the best. Now they're allowing underclassmen to join in. So really it was an opportunity for the scouts. Every scout is there. Usually every GM is there. A lot of the coaches are there. So they get to see you in person competing. And I just had to show like I was a guy that could play against the best and handle my own. And then, you know, one-on-ones, I'm locking people up. In team, I'm making turnovers. I'm picking the ball off. So it was a great and really important week for me to go out and show because of the stigma of the Mountain West and just the competition wasn't the same as some other schools. So you had to go alleviate that notion from coaches when they watch your film.
Do you have a guy right now on your roster that Jordan Gross is down there recruiting, or is he just using this as an excuse to check in with a buddy? Or like, are you guys going golfing or something? Like,
no, I wish we were going golfing. No, he's been making the rounds. Like, I think this is probably his fourth or fifth school. He wanted to say what's up to Gage, so you know they've been talking for like 15 minutes, and Gage just went back to class and a little bit to say hello, and then he'll be making his way on to other schools here in a bit.
I was laughing on the show yesterday because there was a picture posted from another cat that Utah's recruiting, and he's down there visiting him, and it's this high school kid at Servite who's like he looks like he's 60 pounds heavier and 2 inches taller than Jordan Gross, who played a decade in the NFL. What are they feeding these kids, man?
That was the first thing he said. We went and grabbed lunch together, and he's like, "Man, I think I got to get back in the weight room and put back on some muscles so I can actually show him some stuff on the field because these dudes are monsters."
When you're watching, like, I don't know how much of like the Senior Bowl tape or whatever, when you're watching high school tape, obviously, how easy is it for you, having played at the level you played at and now coaching high school and your success in college? How easy is it for you? How quickly can you assess, like, oh, that's a guy, I'm going to see him playing on Saturdays, or I'm going to see him playing even potentially on Sundays someday? How quickly is your eye drawn to the dudes that are the outliers that belong at a higher level?
I think we can get a good idea fairly quickly, watching them move and their size and potential. I think even more so when I was playing, anytime we had draft picks or undrafted guys and we get the first day or two in practice, I bet Jordan would say the same, I could tell right away if they were, one, going to make the team and two, going to have a career just by how they moved and how I could see like directly correlated to my position. So I think as you get older and you see more players come through your program, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. But definitely for DBs, like I kind of know, like, do they have a chance or not? And then skill guys, there's like prerequisites that you kind of have to have, and then you tie in the heart factor and the toughness and the processing in mind. That's where the good coaches will find the super studs that make 10-year careers.
Well, forgive me for drilling down to even more detail on this, but like when you say watching how a guy moves, is it how they come in and out of breaks? Is it the back pedal? Is it the stride? Is it all of the above? Like when you say I can watch somebody move and know, what are you looking for in that movement?
Oh my gosh, it's pad level, it's the feet, it's how many steps. Are they smooth? Are they explosive? How many steps are they taking out of the break? Are they breaking towards the target? Are they wasting steps? Or where is their eyes? Where are their eyes looking? That's probably only half of it. And then the other half is the knowledge of the game and what are their pre-snap checklists? What are they thinking about? Where are their eyes? What is their eye discipline? Do they know what they're doing? Do they communicate? like so much of the game is more of the mental side really at the NFL, but you have to, if you don't have the physical parts, then you better be elite at processing and communication, and even then you still may not have a chance.
Well, I don't know that all of us have the same trained eye as Eric Weddle or Jordan Gross, but we do our best to try and assess what these cats are capable of, and we will do that as we get into spring ball and everything else. And we will keep talking about it. Always appreciate your time. I got to text you. I'm traveling next Thursday, so I think we're going to try to get you on Wednesday if that works.
Yeah, just let me know, bro.
All right, dude. Thanks for your time as always. Tell Jordan thanks for popping on as well.
You got it. Love you, bro.
All right, dude. Love you, man. That's Eric Weddle, Utah football legend, and a guy that I will say it every time, not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but neither is Bill Belichick, all right? I want to see our guy in. I think that you can make a strong case. Even though we gave him the opportunity a couple weeks ago to make his own case, and he refused to do it. But that's just how humble he is. All right.
OC.
Yeah?
If I can.
Go ahead. Porter Larson.
And you mentioned, maybe not a first ballot Hall of Famer. But there are 3 players in NFL history that match his career tackles, interceptions, pass breakup numbers. 3. Yeah. He's one of those 3.
And the other 2 are Hall of Famers.
The other 2 are Hall of Famers. Charles Woodson. I think Rondé Barber. I might have to.
The closest analog that you can find, and our guy, like if I was working for the NFL Network, I would have to yell at him for doing it this way. But I asked him, hey, do you think John Lynch belongs in the Hall of Fame? And instead of saying absolutely yes, he was like, I don't know. Does he? Like, how can you tell? Most people will answer to the affirmative. Does John Lynch belong in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the answer is yes for most people. Weddle has either equal or better stats than John Lynch. And when he came out of retirement and went on that run with the Rams, he got what I thought might be kind of the final straw to break the camel's back. He got the Super Bowl ring, which I know for safeties is not as big of a deal as it is for quarterbacks, but still adds to the resume.
Super Bowl champ.
Yep.
5-time All-Pro.
Yes.
6-time Pro Bowler.
Yes.
I know that's whatever now. Led the league in interceptions a couple times. All-decade team in the 2010s, according to the NFL. And then these are the numbers I was talking about. 1,179 tackles, 29 interceptions, 98 pass breakups in his career. Eric Weddle, Harrison Smith, Charles Woodson. Those are the only 3 that match those numbers in NFL history. Obviously, Harrison Smith, not a Hall of Famer yet, not eligible. Woodson, obviously a Hall of Famer.
Obviously, yes.
I mean, I know that tackles sometimes don't tell a whole story, but when you play in the defensive backfield, you're like the last line of defense. They kind of do. A lot of linebackers have more tackles than they should because they allow a tight end to catch a ball every other down, right? Because they're not committing their assignment. Not the case with DBs. That's an elite list of 3 guys.
Which, by the way, the tackles number for me with Eric Weddle is the most impressive and the most interesting because there's something about our guy Eric Weddle that separates him pretty significantly from Charles Woodson and Harrison Smith.
Smaller than me.
He is small compared to those guys. Those dudes are missiles, especially Harrison is a giant guy.
Yeah.
Right? And, well, I mean, look, it didn't always go Weddle's way when he was sticking his nose in there. But the point is he did it anyway, right? And he was there, and he was, I don't know. He's just a great, great football player. I know it takes more than being a great football player to get into the Hall of Fame, but I think he's checked all of those boxes too. And he's an elite human being and an elite mind when it comes to football. So hopefully we're going to get a period of time where Utah football once again benefits from his expertise. Even if that doesn't happen and he goes off to an NFL GM job or an NFL coaching job or whatever it is, Just you cannot ask for more from a guy as an alum, as a person, as a player, as a friend. He's just elite, man, in every way.
I thought Eric Weddle was potentially a Hall of Famer the first time he retired. And then he came back and not only was part of a Super Bowl run, but by the end of the run was wearing the green dot, leading the team in tackles, right up there in it. And as you mentioned, those 1,100 plus tackles, he may feel them more than just about anyone else in that list. Steve Smith also. Listen, there's two Utes that are like right on that edge there. Steve Smith is behind, I think, 8 or 9 guys as far as total receptions, yards, the above. All those guys also Hall of Famers. So let's start tooting that horn for those two.
We'll do that on this show. All right, I put up another poll question today we have not addressed yet. I do want to get to the results so far and pose it to the listeners out there. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, apropos of nothing on the timing with the question, but it's recruiting season year-round for college football teams. Class of 2026, most of that is settled. Class of 2027, it really, really ramps up right now. And you're seeing a lot of guys taking visits, getting offers, et cetera, et cetera. So it begged the question for me. If I put you in charge of filling out Utah football's roster, and of course Morgan Scalley is mostly in charge of this, but let's say he was just like, I'll coach whatever you got, just bring me what you can get. Knowing that you're going to have $20-ish million, $21 million to spend, knowing what it takes to get 5-star athletes out of high school, knowing what it takes to get 4-star athletes out of high school, whatever. What type of recruit do you, as a fan even, want to see form the backbone of Utah football's roster? I put 4 answers in here. Smaller school transfers, you know what I'm talking about. FCS guys that overperform, group of 5 guys that overperform. High schoolers that, let's be honest, you're getting more projects than you are finished products. At the University of Utah, you are not Notre Dame. You are not Ohio State. You are not Alabama. You're not getting a bunch of Kelvin Obots. All right? You want those guys? You want 3-star high schoolers? Do you want Power 4 transfers, lateral moves, bounce backs, whatever you call them? Guys that that went to BYU originally, or they went to Texas Tech originally, or they went to Arizona State originally, or they went to USC for that matter, and then they decided, no, I'd be better fit at a place like Utah. Maybe I didn't get the playing time I wanted. And then I shouldn't have put this one because, of course, it makes the most sense, but I did anyway. An even mix of all 3. More interesting to me, that's running away with the percentage here, but more interesting to me is that it seems like most people who are willing to take a stand on this, they would rather see small school transfers be the backbone of Utah football's roster. And I cannot tell you how much more, or how I cannot agree more with what you're saying, with what you're thinking. If Morgan Scalley called me and said, OC, make me a roster, it would be 95% dudes that got under-recruited and were overlooked and went to Weber State or went to Incarnate Word or went to some JUCO or went to SUU and killed it in those places. That is exactly where I would get the bulk of my roster. A legacy guy, a Celesi Moa, I would absolutely take a swing. Someone coached by a Ute, a Kelvin Obot, absolutely yes, go after it. A Gage Weddle, I'm setting aside the maximum amount of money for an opportunity like that. But the vast bulk of my roster, if I were in charge, is coming from that. James Madison's players that Kurt Cignetti decided not to take with him to Indiana that have production, that are doing it at a college football level. Probably the only prediction I've gotten right recently is that I said at some point the transfer portal is going to be as important or even more important in college football than high school recruiting. And a lot of people, this was early in the days of all these changes, a lot of people were just like, you're crazy. Coaches want 4-year guys. And that's still true. They want 4-year guys. But a lot of them are acknowledging how impossible it is to have the vast majority of your roster be there for 4 years. We're going to look at Utah completing a signing class in the spring, right? Their 2026 class. And then we're going to look at that 2026 class in 2027 and 2028, and we're going to ask the question, how many of these guys are still here? And it's going to be 50% or less. With that in mind, I'm living in the world I live in now. I'm embracing the system that exists because there's nothing I can do against it for the time being. And I'm saying, give me every single FCS All-American. Bring them all to the University of Utah. I want every one of them. Oh, but the offensive linemen are undersized. Okay, fine. Give me 4 of them and Kelvin Obot to round it out. That would be my backbone at the University of Utah. If I was at Ohio State, I'd be giving you a different answer. If I was at USC, I'd be giving you a different answer. If I was at Texas Tech, I would be getting all Power 4 bounce backs and transfers. I'd be going and get me 10 David Baileys, please, because I've got the money to do it. At Utah, I'm going small school transfers and high school kids. I don't care about the Power 4 dudes at all. What do you think, Porter? Am I a good GM to have?
I think so.
All right.
I'm putting your name in the ring. I think they already gave that job away.
They gave it away to a guy who's a lot smarter than me, Ivy League dude. So,
Wharton School, right?
Did he wait? Is he a Wharton MBA guy?
I think so.
Oh my gosh.
He's like actually really smart.
No, he's an all-conference lineman at Penn. All right, that's an Ivy League school. He knows his stuff. I didn't know he was a Wharton School guy too. Jeez.
Yeah, the real and correct answer is the one that everyone's picking. It is even mix of all. Maybe not an even mix of all. It's gonna go up and down based on availability and just case by case basis. Now, where Utah has always made their hay, and this is something that Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley are notorious for, is finding and evaluating talent regardless of where it comes from. I don't care if you're a P4 player, a high school project player, a small school guy, or you're not even a football player, right? Nate Orchard, Stevenson Sylvester, Julian Blackman, they were all football players, but they were mostly recruited on basketball visits.
Just being athletic.
Just being freak athletes, right? And that's just what Utah has kind of made their program on, is evaluating talent, whether you're a 3-star, a 4-star, or an Eric Weddle 0-star type recruit who's out in California, undersized, but he's got some sort of intangible that says, we got something here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When Kyle and co went to recruit Eric and Urban, Weddle wasn't the guy that they were there to see. Probably has told you this story before.
Yeah.
That's how Utah's going to keep finding recruits. Now, in this new space where NIL and transfer portal is a part of it, yeah, you're going to look at some of the P4 guys. Of course, you'd be dumb not to. But you don't necessarily have to mortgage the office to go get a wide receiver from Tennessee when, you think you can go get that kid from Utah State. That's the reality and we're in. And I think knowing and trusting that Morgan has some experience in this already, you can kind of just go even mix of all, knowing that it's going to go up and down. Now, you know what I really like, Sean? Guys who cut their teeth at the higher level and then go for their senior season to the lower level.
That's the really cool ones.
Those are the guys that I like.
That's the good stuff. When you spend 4 years trying to make it onto the field, and then they're just like, dude, you're not good enough to play here. So you're like, oh, what if I went there instead? What if I go to Weber State? For
example.
And then it's like, yeah, just for an example, no personal connection here. Then it's like, oh, weird. You're able to get on the field there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if you're a high school athlete now, I believe that unless you're a Gage Weddle, right? He's a 5-star kid. He's going to be one of the top recruits in the nation. He's already got every offer you could ever dream of as an athlete. But if you're like a normal, if you're an Eric Weddle, not a Gage Weddle, Utah was at that time an equivalent of what, a UNLV is now. You take the UNLV offer knowing that you're going to play right away. Eric Weddle was a freshman All-American at the University of Utah. Now, knowing what we know about him, you probably could have convinced him to stay at the University of Utah for the whole time. I anticipate that Gage Weddle will play for one university for his entire college football career because of how serious his dad is about the loyalty stuff and about the Weddle name and about, doing it the right way and whatnot. But if you were advising anyone, any young person who's trying to make the transition from high school football to college football, it'd be like, dude, go wherever you're on the field.
Yep.
Because if you get 38 tackles and 1 sack at whatever school, you've got $500,000 to $1 million coming your way from Ole Miss or Clemson or Utah as soon as you hit the transfer portal. And I know that it's probably an ugly thing for some people to hear. Well, you're planning on transferring? Yeah, if you start off at New Mexico, if you go to Idaho, right? If you're at Weber State, your aspiration, I have no problem with your aspiration being to transfer. Have you seen Jack Kelly? Jack Kelly's name right now is all over the Senior Bowl practices as one of the winners of the day.
Yeah.
Kearns High, Weber State University, BYU all-conference level performer where he got paid a lot of money, and now he's going to make NFL money. There's nothing wrong with that being your path.
I'm going to shout out a guy that – shout out to Skylar Main, who I worked with a few years ago in the pre-draft process. Jalen Warren. East High kid.
Yeah.
When he was at East High, he told me this. People recruiting him said, you're too small to play D1. Sorry.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to Ephraim. I'm going to light up the world. Snow College. Then he goes to Utah State. Great job. And then he keeps he goes to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And then his name starts to appear on draft boards.
Yes.
And now he is probably the most consistent running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That can be your path too. Go where you're valued and where you can see the field. If you go somewhere where you're going to sit behind a premier player for 2 years, it doesn't matter how good you are. If your tape isn't there, teams aren't going to know where you're at. You got to see the field.
If I could go back and talk to my 17-year-old self, I'd be like, time to be a realist. Go to Weber State and be there for as long as you have to be there. Stay there, right? You'll play there. But I don't know. The backbone of your roster, your team, your whatever. How are you building it? How are you forming it? Answer the poll question at Real OC Sports. All right, we got to take a break. Crosstalk is next, and we will give away some tickets. We've got Mr. Worldwide Pitbull coming into the studio and also coming to Salt Lake City on June 3rd, and also PBR on February 6th and 7th at the Delta Center. I got tickets for both of those if you can answer our trivia question. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.